You know, when you see headlines about new weapons of war, or code that thinks for us, the long fight for equality, or the raw power of our planet, it's easy to see them as totally separate stories, but they're not. They're actually all interconnected, and they're reshaping our world as we speak. So in this explainer, we're going to connect those dots and build a clearer picture of what's really going on.
Right. So how do you even begin to make sense of all this change? I mean, from a brand new missile being used in the Middle East to the U.S. creating a national reserve for Bitcoin, these aren't just random events. They are all pieces of a much, much larger puzzle. So let's start putting that puzzle together, and we'll begin with the rising drumbeat of global tension.
Okay, so our first big theme, it's this new era of conflict we seem to be living in. We're not just seeing old rivalries flaring up again. We're seeing them armed with brand new and frankly pretty unsettling technology. This is about both the hardware of war and the actual rules of engagement being rewritten right before our eyes. And this, right here, this really captures that escalating cat-and-mouse game of modern warfare. On one side, you've got Israel's Blue Sparrow, an offensive missile that's designed to be incredibly hard to stop because it literally leaves the atmosphere and comes back down. And on the other side, you have the top-tier U.S. defensive system, THAAD, which uses this amazing hit-to-kill tech. But even this advanced shield has its weaknesses, with reports that a key radar system was recently destroyed. The takeaway here is pretty clear. As defenses get better, offenses just get smarter, and that dangerous cycle just keeps on spinning.
But listen, it's not just about these super high-tech missiles. Check out this number, $248 million. That's the value of a contract India just signed to upgrade the engines on its huge fleet of T-72 tanks. So they're taking the backbone of their armored forces, a classic Soviet-era design, and giving it the power and speed it needs for a modern battlefield. This is a massive investment in good old-fashioned conventional military power.
So as the weapons get more advanced, you'd think the rules would too. But here's the thing, those rules are starting to bend, and even break. The Convention on Cluster Munitions was created to ban these incredibly dangerous weapons. But just recently, Lithuania became the very first country to ever pull out of the treaty. It just goes to show you the immense pressure these nations are under, especially when major powers like the US, Russia, and China never even signed on to begin with. The global consensus is really starting to fracture.
And that idea of rules changing leads us perfectly into our next theme, technology's dual nature. It feels like for every amazing solution it provides, it creates a brand new challenge, a new kind of danger. And this is especially true when it comes to the tech that's changing how we think and how we manage our money.
At the very heart of this challenge is a skill that is fundamentally human, critical thinking. We all know what it is, but with AI tools popping up in our schools and our everyday lives, there's a real concern growing. You have to wonder, right? Are we starting to outsource our own ability to think? I mean, why wrestle with a tough problem when an AI can just hand you what looks like a perfect answer in seconds?
And this is exactly why AI can't just, replace human thinking. Look at the comparison. Humans get context, ethics, emotion. We can adapt to completely new things we've never seen before. AI, for all its power, is basically a pattern-matching machine. It doesn't have a real moral compass or genuine creativity. It can write something that sounds human, but it can't truly understand what it means. And if we rely on it too much, we risk weakening the very skills that make us so adaptable in the first place.
And when that critical thinking starts to fade, it has huge real-world consequences, especially in politics. It can lead to something that's been called amocracy. Basically, a system where how we're governed is driven more by emotional appeals and catchy narratives than by, facts and reason. It's a world where solid evidence-based policy can get thrown out the window for whatever is popular at the moment.
But hey, it's not all scary stuff. Technology is also carving out totally new economic frontiers. Get this. The United States is actually creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And how they're getting it is fascinating. They're not just buying it, they're funding the reserve with crypto seized from criminals. The whole idea is to stockpile it as a long-term national asset, kind of like creating a digital Fort Knox and putting the US right at the center of this new financial world.
Okay, let's switch gears for a minute. We're going to talk about a fight that's been going on long before AI or Bitcoin were even a thing, but it's just as urgent today, the global struggle for equality. This is a story of some incredible progress over the last few decades, but it's also a story of these stubborn, persisting gaps that we still have to close.
So, a really important part of this story kicks off back in 1995 with the Beijing Declaration. It was this landmark global promise for women's rights. Now, let's fast forward 30 years to today, and the UN has just put out its big review. So, the question is, after 3 decades of work, where are we now?
And you know what? There has been some real, tangible progress, especially when you look at politics. The data shows women now hold over a third of the seats in local governments and more than a quarter in national parliaments. These are not just numbers. They represent a major shift in who holds power, and it's a direct result of decades of work.
But, and this is a big but, all that progress in politics gets hit with a pretty harsh reality when you look at a number like this one. 20%. That is the global gender wage gap. It means that, on average, women still only make about 80 cents for every dollar a man earns. It's a huge reminder that having a seat at the table doesn't automatically mean economic equality. Of course, the fight for inclusion is way bigger than just gender. And over in India, we're seeing something really cool. The country is launching the first ever Khelo India Tribal Games, a national sporting event created just for tribal athletes. It's a really significant step, trying to bring marginalized communities into the mainstream through the power of sports.
All right, for our last big theme, let's zoom way, way out and look at our planet itself, a world of absolutely incredible extremes. We're going to see stories of unbelievable resilience from the tiniest forms of life, and then we'll witness the immense, raw power that shapes our entire world.
Seriously, you can't make this up. It's nicknamed Conan the Bacterium. How great is that? Its real name is Deinococcus radiodurans, and believe me, it has earned its reputation as one of the toughest little organisms on planet Earth.
So, how on earth does it do it? This thing can survive radiation thousands of times stronger than what would kill one of us. It can survive extreme cold, acid, even the vacuum of space. It's wild. Apparently, the secret is a special antioxidant shield and this incredible set of enzymes that lets it constantly repair its own shattered DNA. It's a masterclass in survival.
Okay, so from the insane resilience of a tiny single cell, let's scale up to the resilience of an entire ecosystem. India's Namami Gange program, which is this massive mission to clean up the Ganga River, is showing some amazing results. They've quadrupled sewage treatment in key cities, and because of that, wildlife is coming back. The number of Gangetic dolphins is actually going up. It's just a huge win for conservation.
And it's not just the Ganga. We're seeing other really hopeful stories about recovery and discovery out there. Over in Australia, koala populations are making a rapid comeback in some areas after those devastating fires. And in the Himalayas, scientists just found 2 completely new species of fruit flies. It just reminds you that our planet is still full of surprises.
But for all that amazing resilience of life, we can never forget that we live on a planet that operates on just raw, immense power. 6.7. That was the magnitude of the earthquake that just hit the Solomon Islands, a humbling reminder of the massive forces that are always at work right under our feet.
And that brings us full circle, right back to a big question for you. When you look at all these different forces, new weapons, AI that makes us question how we think, the long journey towards equality, and a planet of such extremes, what's the one skill you think we need most to get through all this? Is it adaptability, maybe empathy, or is it something more fundamental? Just the ability and maybe the will to think for ourselves?